Zelos Podcast is sponsored by Kinetic IQ, where intelligence meets motion. Kinetic IQ brings a biomechanics lab into the palm of your hand, letting you measure movement anytime, anywhere, with just an iPad or an iPhone, and no wearables required. I've been using Kinetic IQ's markerless motion capture in my own practice, and whether you're screening athletes, analyzing posture and gait mechanics, optimizing performance, or guiding return to play, it helps practitioners like us save time, capture more objective data, and make instant actionable decisions. So to learn more about how Kinetic IQ is shaping the future of intelligent movement, visit them at kineticiq.com. That's KINETIKIQ.com. You know, I can't tell you how thrilled I am to have Metabolic Elite be one of the sponsors of the Zelos Podcast. You know what makes Metabolic Elite different is their commitment to real results. I've seen a lot of supplements and performance enhancement things over the years, but they pair clinical experience with innovation, like Lipitab, their proprietary solid-state liposomal delivery system. It's a chewable format which enhances absorption like nutrients like BPC 157 and synapses. They're delivered more efficiently in the body, supporting recovery, focus, cognitive health. Their formulas go beyond the basics, solving performance health challenges at the system level. Every product is tested for quality, it's backed by research, and trusted by athletes and clinicians alike. So learn more at metabolicelite.co. And you can get 10% off all of Metabolic Elite products by entering the coupon code ZELOS, Z-E-L-O-S. Welcome to the Zelos Podcast, the show that's all about the pros behind the pros in sports. I'm your host, Rocky Snyder. This week, Coach Ian Ho is with me. He is an associate strength conditioning coach for the WNBA Washington Mystics. He's been there for now going on his second season. And before we get underway with his conversation, remember it's just coming up week after next, July 8th to the 11th, the NSCA National Conference in New Orleans, Louisiana. If you haven't signed up, you can still get on the website and register, nsca.com. Hope to see you there. And I'm going to make it a quick trip to New Orleans because I've got to bug over to Long Beach and enjoy the Perform Better 3-day functional training summit. That's kicking off July 9th to the 11th, and that means that I'll be doing a lecture, a Q&A, and a hands-on Saturday morning. I would love for you to join me in Long Beach. And if you can't, no worries. We've got my website with the blogs and podcast archives and a whole bunch more information. Maybe at the end of July, on the 29th, you can join Bobby Aldridge and myself for a free webinar put on by Perform Better. It'll be July 29th, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, but we'll give you more information as we get closer and closer. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Tell a few friends and enjoy this conversation. Ian, first off, welcome to the Zelos Podcast. I know we are going to kick this one out of the park with our conversation just before hitting the record button. I just have that feeling. So first of all, Coach, welcome. Welcome to the Zelos Podcast.
All right, thank you, Rocky. Thank you for having me here.
Man, it is a pleasure. I've had you in my sights for well over a month now, and we've got a time where you're in the middle of the WNBA season. You're just coming off a 3-game win streak with the Washington Mystics. You guys are climbing the ladder up in the standings. So first off, congratulations on that and having a stronger season halfway through. But I want to know who Ian Ho is. Like, where did you come from? I know you went to North Carolina, Charlotte, and you've done some work here and there, but give the listening audience and myself a little bit of a rundown about your career path.
Yeah, so I come from Taiwan, a small island in Southeast Asia, and I was born and raised there all the way through high school. I played basketball, decent, not fantastic to actually have a playing career out of it. And I was just very curious as a kid, to try to learn anything about the sport. So I decided, I love basketball. I might as well go to the country that's big on basketball. And, so I went to University of Kentucky at the time. All the top draft pick and all that came from there. So I was like, yeah, let me get close to them and then figure out what they're doing. And
Yeah.
so I went there for my undergrad. Spent 4 years there, and then so when I got on campus, I started uh, as a kinesiology major student, obviously as most of the strength coaches out there. And then, but at the time, I wasn't sure what I was gonna do. 18-year-old who would know they were gonna be a coach going, as a career. So I was just everywhere. I started as a practice player with the women's basketball team there. Uh, Fortunate enough to go against WNBA All-Star Ryan Howard for years. Uh, she got me into a lot of trouble to the coaches. They would be like, Ian, can you please guard harder? I'm like, I'm trying my best. And so that was some fun story back there. And so I was all over the place. I assisted the video coordinator to cut film in the video office. I talked to the strength coach whenever I can. I talk to the athletic trainer whenever I can. So just kind of learn everything about the program as best as I could at the time. And then I'm an international student, so moving my career forward, I needed to just kind of started with the academic side of things. So I decided, well, when I graduated, if I, go deep into, let's say, a physical therapy school or an athletic training program, I may or may not have the chance to still be with basketball team because that could be out of my control. So I my senior year, I tried to network and explore around different options, and UNC Charlotte pop up. The strength and conditioning program there helps students to line up internship and around the area and all that. So I was thinking not many masters student would have my experience in basketball, so the chances for me to go there and land an internship with the basketball team is pretty high. So I
Excellent.
decided to go there, and then my first year, my professor uh, connect me with the basketball strength coach there. So I interned for their men's basketball team and women's basketball team as a strength and conditioning intern. And then meanwhile, I did some other work with a high school there, Charlotte Christian School. It's a private school. They had with their strength and conditioning internship. I was helping with all sports, so they helped me out with a few of my later stops. So that's
Excellent.
what I did for my academic career here in the US. Undergraduate degree at Kentucky, and then master's degree at UNC Charlotte. And then
Wow.
and then there were 2 summers that I spent back home working with the national teams there, and that helped me out with learning the. It's not a professional team setting, but I was working with professional players, so kind of teach me a few ins and out of how contract works, how all season may look like for professional players, and I feel like that these experience helped me prepare for my current role here.
For
And
certain. I'm sure of it.
yeah. And
Wow.
yeah, so it's quite a journey. And then after I graduated from UNC Charlotte, I worked 1 year at Morehead State University, and
Oh,
yeah, and over there I oversaw the women's basketball team, and then women's soccer team, and their cheerleading team. And I can tell you a little more story about that later on. And then the dance team. So, women's basketball, most of us are pretty familiar with training basketball players and soccer as well. These are popular sports. But cheerleading, which is also very popular, they're a different beast. When I
so
get, yeah,
different. There's so
yeah,
many different positions. You've got the throwers, the base. It's just so many different body types on a team compared to like
yes,
basketball. You pretty much got all the same body types, just varying in height for the most part, but skill levels and aerobic requirements and everything else. But cheer, oh man, that's like Noah's
yeah,
Ark as far as I'm concerned. You just got
yeah,
so much variety there. That must have been a blast.
yeah, it was. So Morehead State University, they have one of the best cheerleading team out there, and they had, I think at the time when I was there, 130 athletes. So when I
Oh.
started, it was all me looking at 130 bodies, and then we have the 300-pound male base who lift way more than I do, and then And then we have the tiny flyer who are like 95 pounds. So it's, as you said, all type of body type. And then I had no idea about that sport coming into that job. Like I know they, they throw people up, do fancy stunts and all that. And that's about it. And then so when I got there, my first thing was I went up to the head coach saying, well, we have these all different types of body. Like, how do you want me to train them? And then so obviously he explained the different position to me a little bit, and then what the needs are for individuals. And then it happened to be by a practice. And then so they had me try a backflip,
Oh,
which was a disaster. I flipped, but I did not land well. And then so that's where I know, all right, I need to lean on the athlete to tell me how they would feel doing their sport because I cannot feel that at all. Like when I went up, they said, yeah, your jump looked fast and powerful, but after you start spinning, like it fall apart. I'm like, yeah, I've never really spun my body like that in the air before. So that's a funny story that,
that's great. Oh
yeah.
my gosh. But I can see, honestly, there's some carryover into basketball. Quick question. You said you really fell in love with basketball growing up in Taiwan. Who were your heroes? Were they NBA players? Were they national players in Taiwan? Who you're looking at? What games were you watching? Did you have a team specifically that you were rooting for?
Yeah, so when I grew up, well, it may make you sound a little aged, but I was born in '99,
Oh,
and
damn. Yeah, I'll get my wheelchair later, but go ahead, keep
yeah,
going.
so when I started to have some memory watching basketball or like just memory for anything, it was the '03 class. So LeBron James, Ben Wade,
Okay.
that class came out, uh, and then so the run that I remember was the Miami Heat championship. That was the first kind of NBA season that I have memory of. Very inspiring, a 3 year uh pro player carry a team to win a championship and all that. That's kind of my very first wow in basketball. And then obviously when I got older, there were some other professional players in Taiwan that inspired me as well. But the the I would say the biggest inspiration of knowing a Taiwanese or an Asian can be, you know, standing in the top league in the world would be Jeremy Lin. He took off. The Linsanity was when I was in middle school, and then so that's when that's what inspired me knowing a Taiwanese person. Obviously, I can't do it as a player, but
Sure.
whatever I could be, there's a chance that I could be around, and so yeah, that's that.
Right on, coach. Okay, then
Yeah.
just curious, how did you end up? You've been with the Mystics now for this your
Mhm.
second season, correct?
Yes, it was. Yep.
How did you get to land with the Washington Mystics?
So it started with going to conferences and meet people, and then one of my mentor that I connected with through a conference knew about this opportunity, and then asked me if I was interested. And at the time, I was more hesitate, and then knowing that this will be a great opportunity for me to do what I eventually want to do, and so like after that, it was a very quick process. I didn't even have the chance to process at the time, to be honest. I got that reach out message in 1 week. The next week we did an interview. The following week I flew in person, and then the week after I was here. And so like I
Really?
didn't really have yeah, so I didn't really have time to process it much. And then it was a dream come true moment for me to land this spot. And so really I would say no hesitant at all from knowing about the opportunity to moving here.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah.
And that's great. And of course, you've got quite a roster. I mean, I don't necessarily I don't talk about specific athletes on this podcast, and we don't. I just make it a point not to bring up anything dealing with them. But with that, I also happen to love your rookie center, and I'm very excited for the future of your team. So, and there we go. I didn't name names. I just said one thing
Yeah,
there. But how is it different for you now that you're with a professional level WNBA team, which just a couple of days ago celebrated 29 years of league anniversary? Maybe not the team itself, but how is it working with this caliber of players compared to, say, college level? What are the biggest differences, or maybe even challenges that you face?
yeah. So obviously at the college level, you don't really get players this tall. And so I mean on the men's side, yes, but it's different. And then also one thing I would say though, as a strength coach at the professional level, like we do what we do, but we did not help the player to get to this level. Like the people that helped them got them here. And then so what we try to do, at least for me, what I try to do is to help them stay at this level and also uh, get even better at this level. So I don't see them as obviously we are coach and athlete, but I view the players as more like a colleague. So we work together, we discuss each other's need, and then if I see something that I think the player should develop on, I tell them, all right, we need to gain some mass, or we need to get faster, or uh, let's say if they are playing 30 plus minutes and then still want to come in and work out super hard the next day, I will tell them that may not be the best idea if you want to play well again the day after. Like I tell them things like this. But also if they come back saying, well, I do feel like I need to work on this, this, and this, or uh let's say the practice today didn't quite get what they want to do, they want to accomplish, then uh I do my best to work around what their requests are and also what I feel like they need for their development. So it's a lot of discussion and back and forth between me and the player that I directly work with.
What do you typically do for like game day plus one? Like,
Uh,
are you going to be doing more regeneration, recovery, or are you going to go into the weight room and just start loading and then deal with recovery on like game day plus two?
so it depends on the situation. So
Yeah.
players playing 30 plus minutes compared to player playing less than 10 minutes are very different.
Okay, so
So
starting
yeah,
five are going to have definitely more than those that aren't seeing much playing time. If they're not seeing playing time, definitely you're going to load them and develop them. But if they were on
yeah,
the court for all 48 minutes, then you're going to do a little bit more recovery with them in general.
yeah. So a, a time that I like to utilize is after right after the game. So
What do you do there?
so basically for me, that's the window that I would do most of their lower body strength training or hypertrophy training at that time because they're already tired from the game itself, and they might as well be even more tired. And then so let's use our schedule this past week for example. So we played in Connecticut on Wednesday, in New York on Friday, and then in Minnesota on Sunday. So basically, every other day we play. So what are the chances that we could actually train? After the game would be the best bet. And then so hopefully after the day in between and then a morning by the next game, they are fresh enough to go in and play hard.
Fantastic. And not to minimize what you just said, but three road wins in a row
Yeah.
against the Lynx and the Liberty. And we'll throw the Suns in there, of course, but I mean, that's pretty impressive. So
Yeah, it was.
there's no secret recipe for this, but do you have certain assessment screens or just movements in general, drills that you feel are reducing the likelihood of non-contact injury, like injury mitigation in any way? I know that's a broad statement and it's probably not the
Mhm.
greatest question because everyone's going to be different. There's health histories and injury histories, so you've got to address the individual athlete. But nonetheless, there's one pelvis, two hips, two knees, and so on.
Yeah.
Is there kind of a trend, or do you kind of have big buckets you really want to hit? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So, like as a whole, like formally assessing, we do use the FMS, just to, everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people do it. And
Okay.
so that would give us a bigger picture of, how players go through all the movements. But for me, on the day-to-day basis, would be just put them on single leg exercises. Like if they can do a single leg RDL without shaking their body, like they're gonna fall down, or some single leg lunge or squat pattern, like a skater squat per se. Can they hold a tripod in their feet and then just moving up and down, or hinge their body without needing to spend 5 seconds to get on balance and then move? So that to me, it's not going to solve everything, but it will let us know if something isn't going well.
I actually like that. I like that a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
definitely resonates a lot with me when you're talking about the foot tripod and single leg action and just seeing what the quality of movement is. But it also gives you a nice baseline that is
Yes.
very top level functionality, I guess is what I'm going at. Rather than, and FMS is great, but rather than just laying on the floor and doing an
Mhm.
active single leg straight raise or active single leg raise. It's just so much more like, okay, loaded, closed chain, where are we? So you can
Yeah.
kind of cut right to the chase, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. And
Uh,
that even body weight does a job. It doesn't always have to be loaded. Yeah.
Now, considering that they're only dealing with their body weight on the court too, I think
Yeah.
that's the other thing, coach, is load management. I think that is the never ending kind of holy grail that so many
Mhm.
strength coaches and other stakeholders like the athletic trainer and the physical therapist and sport coach, skills coach, like load management is one of those things. Everyone's going to have a different degree of tolerance, but
Yeah.
how do you deal with load management? Like taking consideration when they have long practices, double days, or games. How do you juggle it all around when it comes to getting them in the weight room or in the recovery rooms?
So, for me, I lean on our like IMU or LPS system a lot. So some people use Connexon, some people use Catapult. Whatever you use, I would say it's just apple and oranges. And uh, personally, I would pick a few metrics that I check consistently. There is really no right or wrong, but whatever you pick, I would like that thing to be in a healthy range. So
So what do
I would
you
just
pick? Give
check.
me a couple ideas.
So like that's a distance or acceleration, deceleration, or amount of jumps, whatever you like. But for me, they're running on the court, so distance is definitely one of them. So if they need to run 3 mile every game, and then you practice at 1 mile all the time, and you probably wouldn't expect them to do well running 3 mile, if that makes sense.
Got it.
So for me, at the end of the day, if everything stay within the point A to 1.2 or point 0.3 acute to chronic load ratio, they're usually in a pretty decent spot. But if this player specifically uh, taking this practice load and this game load and then constantly have issue recovering, then we probably want that player to be a little lower for her both acute and chronic load. So that allows them to recover and then play at their best when it matters. So which is the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Okay.
but if somebody proves us that they can uh if somebody proves to us that they can handle a way higher load than everybody else is doing. Then if they want to, play one-on-one for 1 hour after practice one day, like, so be it, because that's what they make it here because of they did that. And so
Certainly.
unless recovery is an issue, we normally don't step in and uh well, at least I normally don't step in and try to alter uh their training or workout. And then another thing though with the players that don't get that many playing minutes, then we try to use other opportunities to make sure their chronic load stays somewhat high enough to where if one day somebody get into foul trouble or somebody gets hurt, they can go in and play 20-30 minutes without a spike in their acute to chronic load. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes complete sense.
Yeah.
So I'm curious too if there have been situations where even though they fall within the ideal parameters, there's some kind of there's some action, there's some observation on your part that even though these people, your athletes or team members are right in that sweet range, you see something
Mhm.
that gives you an idea that, hey, this is not matching up to what I'm seeing. Has that happened before? And without naming names, can you give me a little bit of an understanding of like what that was all about?
Yeah, so let's say if one player just in if they stay in that sweet spot that we kind of want to have the whole team there and not responding the way that we expected, then if let's say if it means the player sit out for a practice so she can play the next game, so be it. If that's what we need to do, because the game is definitely the most important thing for them, for the player, the coaches, and the organization, because they are paid to play in the game, not in practice. Or I would say probably all of them, but we want to keep the availability, or let's say, we want the money to be spent on the right, towards the right things. So, which if the game is a thing, then we'll try to do that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So oftentimes, it seems that young coaches become kind of obsessed with data. So I'm wondering, how do you determine when data is helping decision making and when it's simply creating noise? How do you filter through the sports science and the data
Mhm.
points? We're just going to take a quick pause from this conversation to acknowledge our sponsors, and then we'll be right back. The Zelos Podcast is sponsored by Kinetic IQ, where intelligence meets motion. Kinetic IQ brings a biomechanics lab into the palm of your hand, letting you measure movement anytime, anywhere with just an iPad or iPhone. No wearables required. I've been using Kinetic IQ in my own practice, and whether you're screening athletes, optimizing performance, or guiding return to play, it helps practitioners like us save time, capture more objective data, and make instant actionable decisions. So to learn more about how Kinetic IQ is shaping the future of intelligent movement, visit kinetikiq.com. That's KINETIKIQ.com. At the forefront of metabolic elite is Jim Lavelle, internationally recognized clinical pharmacist, a chief science officer at Lifetime, and the co-chair for the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine. He's got over 4 decades of experience and has guided Olympic athletes, professional teams, and leading health institutions. You know what makes Metabolic Elite different is their commitment to real results. Like Lipitab, their proprietary solid-state liposomal delivery system. It's a chewable format which enhances absorption like nutrients like BPC 157 and synapses. They're delivered more efficiently in the body, supporting recovery, focus, cognitive health. Their formulas go beyond the basics, solving performance health challenges at the system level. Every product is tested for quality, it's backed by research, it's trusted by athletes and clinicians alike. And you can get 10% off all of Metabolic Elite products by entering the coupon code ZELOS, ZELOS.
I'm usually the person that goes to the coaches saying, "Hey, this player, we may need to hold back so we don't blow up her load, and she may feel sore after or tight the next day." And I think sometimes that's helpful when it's how do I frame it? So when it's a situation like that, when we are very carefully monitoring a player's load, then that helps. But that said, if this practice is so critical that we need the player for, you know, 2 extra minutes of a scenario that we will use the next game, then at that point, this data probably should be, I wouldn't say ignored, but should be set back for a little bit so we accomplish what the sports need. And then we can figure out where else we can, pull back on the 2 minute that she gets on the court. Does that make sense?
Gotcha. Yes, it does. It
Yeah,
does.
so let's say
Definitely.
if we want to, yeah, so if we want to figure out the out of bound play that we want to run for the game tomorrow, and that player already hit the cap, and unless it's a medical hard cap, so if it's a rehab situation where we're like, no, today she is not running more than, let's say, 2 miles, then yes, then that player should be done. But if it's something that's just negotiable, let's just put it that way. If it is something that's negotiable, we would let the sport coaches take care of what they need for the game, and then let's say the next day, maybe tomorrow morning, the shoot around, this player can sit out for one of the trips that we go full court and run a couple plays like that. If that doesn't matter as much as what we want to see in practice, then we can adjust things like that. So kind of just a priority of things. Sometimes data help us to make good decisions, but if that decision is conflicting with the bigger picture, then that's for me, that's where we want to pull back and then be smart with both the communication and then how much involved we want to get in uh, with, let's say, it impacting the flow of practice. Because that does happen sometimes. Coaches would come to me sometimes asking, what's the load for the team and so and so. And if that happened a lot, it just breaks up the flow of practice. And then coaches would get upset if a player hit a load before or way more than what they expected that the practice should look like. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. It totally
Yeah,
makes
yeah.
sense.
So
Yeah.
those are the things that I have learned, and I would say grow a lot at this job because uh I do that quite a few times, and then now I have learned to set back sometimes, let the coaches do their thing unless something is really off the chart that we need to communicate. Try to let the sport take care of uh what the needs are.
Beautiful. Okay. When it comes to the athletes, there
Hmm.
are going to be some who continue to improve, and then there's going to be those that seem to be stagnant
Yeah.
despite having amazing talent. What separates those athletes in your mind?
Mm. I would say sometimes it's luck, sometimes because
Yeah,
yeah, because sometimes players can just be very gifted and they can do minimal things and have great outcomes. And sometimes player may just plateau early on and they try everything they could and things just don't go as what we thought uh, the outcome would be. So uh, I would say luck is one thing, but we always try to fight that. We always try to
of
make the
course.
uncontrollable, the things that we cannot control in our control. So uh, I would say the players that I have seen, well, that's just speaking of my 2 years in the league, so not a lot of experience, but the ones that I have seen having the best outcome is the one that show up most consistently and sticking to the plan. So as I mentioned earlier, the planning process is not just myself thinking we should do this, this, and this. It's myself thinking there are a few things that I want to work on with the player, and then the player also involved in some level of discussion, so we get on the same page. We're doing this, and then so every time we see each other, uh, even when it's hard time, let's say if it's coming off a bad loss, uh, and then post game, we still got to see each other in the weight room. Too bad. Doesn't matter if you score 0 or 20, we're still hitting our squat. And then
Yeah.
so some players, I mean, emotion definitely get in the way, but some players just show up regardless, and then they may take some time to calm themselves down to get back to work. But the ones that show up the most consistently, uh, I would say have the I wouldn't say best result, but the most predicted result that we were trying to get.
Okay. So
Yeah,
consistency and adherence,
yeah,
essentially
yeah, yeah.
the buy-in. How about this? You mentioned single leg exercises in regards to the weight room. Yeah, there's going to be some main fundamental lifts, such
Mhm.
as squats, probably push press or some type of clean, and that's pretty homogenous from one team to the other. What varies for me and my understanding uh, are the accessory lifts, the the single leg, the unilateral or contralateral complexities that you feed into your athletes. What I guess I'm wondering, what does it look like in your weight room when it comes to accessory lifts?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, uh, a lot of single leg kind of warm up and assessments happen early on in the lift. So whenever mobility, activation, we have the players do, usually before they get into their A block, uh, there is a single leg RDL, and we call it a level change lunge. It's basically a skater squat, and when you can't go down anymore, you reverse lunge and then come back. And so these are the exercises we try to see on a daily basis. And so that gives us the kind of a daily screen type of situation. And then moving into our actual lift, obviously like the basic things, we bilateral squat. Uh, every Personally, I try to do it every week, but if schedule get in the way, I will still try to make sure that we touch it as frequent as I can. And then we also single leg squat, so like s- basic split squats or skater squat. So all kinds of double leg, single leg movements. And then one thing that I find very not that common out there, but I happen to program it a lot is single leg jumps. So uh, could be a single leg box jump or just hopping around the cones, going forward, going laterally, medially. Just so because the player they will jump over the place on the court. So I make sure they jump under control in a very simple, controlled environment in the weight room, and very start very basic. So every jump, I ask them to stick when they start, and then when they find their balance after a few weeks, I would have them just continue the movement and see how well you stay on balance when it's faster or higher or farther. And then so I do a lot of that as plyometric and also accessory in a way. So single leg strength exercises and also single leg plyometric exercises. Those are the one that I always keep in my program. So make sure that the players are doing that well with me before they go out and have to read defense or react to offense when things are out of their control on the court.
And do you throw like the resistance bands around the hips or anywhere in the body to feed a different force vector into it, or is it primarily just ground reaction force that you're feeding into?
Yeah, so to begin, so like let's say from training camp day one, everybody is doing body weight. And then later on when players get better at it, we sometimes put like a 3D strap. The basic weight is just around the waist, like a bungee, and then they go against it. And or we would just have them turn around, actually use a 3D strap in the 3D setup, and then go in different directions just so they have to fight against different resistance, and hopefully that helps them to land better when they got knocked around on the court.
Cool. Nice. I like that. And it's multi-dimensional, multi-planar, and you're not
Yeah,
just kind of just staying in that sagittal flexion
yeah.
extension. How about this? I don't think I've ever asked this question, but there's so many times where players go to the floor, usually getting bumped under the boards as they're going for a layup or they're trying to get the board and they're going down. How much time, if any, do they spend practicing or conditioning themselves for that type of ground contact, like full body ground contact? Are you doing any type of kind of conditioning on how to hit the ground with the least amount of potential injury?
Oh yeah, so we do a lot, probably way too much. I would say way too much, but way too much for the players. They get irritated sometimes of snap downs, double leg, single leg, jump lunges, and then those are like the basic ones we do pretty often. Basically, every game day in the warm ups, we throw in one of that, and then uh, and then in their actual lift, like death bending, going forward, laterally, landing on one leg, two leg, and then all kinds of direction. That's we do a lot of that within our setting. Not a lot of volume, but sprinkle enough for them to be mindful when they land, at least in a controlled manner. When they're out there going crazy to get a rebound, I'm not sure if they're even thinking about landing at that point. But in a weight
But
room,
when their
we,
whole body comes down onto the ground,
oh, you
you're
mean,
you're
oh, you mean like, oh, you mean like
like
landing
when
as on
their
the
hips
shoulder?
and their
Oh,
spine and
I see.
shoulders and so on, are
Yeah,
you doing any type of rolling techniques so that they get more familiar? Because my days of studying Aikido, granted that was many years ago, and I hate to say it, but before you were born, but there you go. I was studying Aikido and it was a tremendous amount of rolling practice. And I just
yeah,
wonder how much the professional athletes do of actually practicing getting familiar with ground contact with everything but their feet.
I see. Yeah, that part I haven't explored enough with my current role to do that just yet. But I have done that in some other setting. But
Okay.
this one, I because so our work today, they are just coming in and out. They go to treatment and they come to us and then they go out on court for their individual. So it's for me right now. I haven't have a grasp of introducing that with our logistic and workflow just yet. But thank you for reminding me that that will be something that
No
I'll
worries.
add
I'm
to my
just
program.
curious.
Yeah, yeah, but yes,
Okay.
that's definitely something that's kind of in my bucket that I haven't take out just yet.
No problem. Okay. How about this, coach? We go through some rapid fire questions. You up for it?
Yes, yeah, of course.
Okay. All right. They're just going to be quick questions and you can throw a word or a sentence out. Here we go. Data or intuition? What do you rely on more?
Hmm. At the moment, intuition.
Okay. Strength or speed? What do you want to develop higher?
I would say strength,
What's the most underrated athletic quality?
deceleration,
Ooh. One metric you trust the most.
magic. Hmm. You get me there. give
Okay.
me give me one more than rapid fire time.
No
uh,
problem. How
yeah,
about
yeah.
what metric do you trust the least?
The least. Uh, just jump height itself.
Okay. How about recovery or training? Which gets more neglected more?
Recovery.
Nice. Best coaching cue you've ever heard.
Figure it out.
Oh, I love it. What breaks down first under pressure, the body or the mind?
Ooh, I would say mine.
Cool. And one habit every young coach should develop.
Repeat that again.
What's one habit that every young coach
Uh,
should develop or train in themselves?
Ooh, one habit. I don't know if this counts as a habit, but more like a characteristic. You need to care.
Beautiful. And
Yeah.
lastly, how about one word that defines elite performance?
Uh, Collaboration.
Ooh, good. All right. Right on. Good job on that.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
all right. I can go back to the metric I trust the most.
Okay.
It's the asymmetry between limbs.
Tell me more. Let's go into it. That won't be a rapid answer. Give me a little
Yeah.
bit more insight on what you mean.
So if an athlete is way stronger one side over the other, even both could be strong. That's still not good. And
I like it.
yeah, and so for me, that can create a lot of issue because all the compensation that can happen, and we definitely don't want that. It can be the stronger side at higher risk or the weaker side being at a higher risk. We don't know. Uh, just many things that can go with it if the athlete had very huge asymmetry between the two legs or two arms, however, whatever metric you look at. But asymmetry definitely for me, if that is a red flag, then I'd never ignore it.
Well said. I was just at a conference and we're speaking exactly about that is, movement patterns. And obviously we're talking compensatory issues, but the underlying basic fundamental root cause would be the nervous system assessing the threat level of any particular action or environment. And the brain is going to do the best it can to survive. And so it will choose movements as well as it will tone down force production in a muscle. We might call that weak, but it's a strategy, an unconscious strategy to try to have preservation and to minimize the threat. So it's just kind of cool when you kind of
Yeah,
consider it that way. Then it takes away the inhibition of muscles or the weakness or facilitated or strength levels, and you start to look at it in a completely different light. Like, okay, there's asymmetries. Now we got to figure out the why and the underlying root cause, which I know that's kind of where you're going, which is great. So
yeah,
yeah, I'm right there with you. When
yeah.
there's asymmetries, there's a strategy that
Something
I'm
wrong.
curious
Yeah, yeah.
about.
There's something that we need to figure out. May not need to be fixed for some sport.
No,
Like let's say if it's a baseball player, their upper body is definitely not symmetry. But it's something. Well, as a basketball strength coach, anything that's a little off can be very wrong moving forward.
yeah,
So yeah,
beautiful. Well, Coach, if people want to kind of follow you, of course, in the description below the
mhm.
podcast here, I'll put the Mystics website as well as your LinkedIn. But are there other ways to kind of watch your pursuits or follow you? Do you do anything in
Yeah,
terms of
yeah. I'm
blogs or
also yeah.
podcasts?
So I'm also on Instagram at IANHCC, and people can find me there. I will respond. I think I'm better there than on LinkedIn because there are just so many people uh, sending connection invites and all that on LinkedIn, and a lot of
Yeah,
ads as well. So I get back to people like when you reach out, I get back, but I have to filter through a few other advertisements to find the one that's actually reaching out for
I
me.
hear you.
Yeah,
It happens to me too. It's crazy how much
yeah,
is out there.
yeah,
Well, this is fantastic. I honestly, I can't thank you enough for putting a little time aside. And if we can connect when the Mystics come out to play the Valkyrie, man, that would be great. I would welcome that opportunity. And now I'm just going to follow your team a little bit closer and see how you're doing. And right
yeah.
now,
Of course, thank you.
uh, Mystics and Valkyrie are kind of neck and neck where they are in the standings. So that'll be great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thanks again. This has been
Yeah,
great.
of course. Yeah, thank you for having me. And then once I figure out the details of my schedule in San Francisco, I'll let you know, and then hopefully we can connect.
And bam, just like that, the conversation's over. But I don't think it's really complete. We're going to have Coach Ho on again and just check out what he's been doing at the Mystics. What a great turnaround season they're having so far. Can't thank Ian enough for coming on, as well as the Mystics organization for allowing it to happen. Don't forget, the weekend after next, we've got the NSCA National Conference, New Orleans, Louisiana, and that's going to be from Wednesday to Saturday. A whole bunch of great lineups there and networking opportunity. Be sure to register at nsca.com. While you're online, hit the Perform Better's website because they've got their 3-day functional training summit happening at the same weekend in Long Beach. So if you can't make it to New Orleans, get to SoCal. And then they've also got one Providence, Rhode Island in August. Check them out online at performbetter.com. Hey, if you haven't followed me on Instagram, I would really love it if we can connect that way at Rocky_Snyder. And we'll just see you next week. Remember to check out metabolicelite.co. Check out all the products they have on their website. Synapsin Pro is something I've been using to help stay focused without having to over-caffeinate myself. It keeps me in the zone so I can just really hone in on the things I need to achieve without feeling like, man, I gotta reach for an energy drink every 5 minutes. Metabolicelite.co. And don't forget, Kinetic IQ. They've got markerless motion capture for morons like me. I can use their product with my iPhone or my iPad. I can look at posture analysis, movement analysis of any exercise, gait analysis. It gives me everything I could possibly want when tracking people's movements. So, check out kinetikiq.com.